Food and weight obsession can be exhausting. Losing weight, gaining weight, dieting, feeling like a failure because you missed a workout, binged, overate, or gained all the weight back. The cycle is endless and it can be maddening. But I'm here to say you can stop the mental madness. You can take back control of your food behaviors, but you have to face your fears, you have to ask for help, and make a change. I am Leslie M. Thornton, permanent weight loss coach from hpwl.co. This is Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, and I know you can make this happen. On this podcast, you will hear how to stop the mental madness, love your body, trust your food decisions so you can create a life of happiness, freedom, and inner peace. Hello, Leslie M. Thornton, Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. Today we have Joy Chudacoff with us here, and I'm so excited for you to get to meet her. I had the pleasure of being on Joy's podcast recently, and our conversation, we found in getting to know one another that we were aligned in our thinking, and fun to say the word aligned because as I have learned more and more about Joy, I know she is all about alignment, and I feel like that is a buzzword that I'm personally hearing all the time around the importance of being aligned in every area of life. So I can't wait for her to share more about what that looks like. And Joy, is just a stand from what I can tell for all women to really be living an aligned life and experience whatever it is that they came to experience and all their purpose and passion and abundance that's possible. But I'm going to let you guys also learn more about Joy as I am interviewing her here today. So thanks for being here, Joy.
Oh, thank you. I'm really looking forward to this, Leslie.
Yeah, awesome. So yes, would love to hear, start with your story if you would, because I think it's awesome.
Oh my gosh. So my story, I was sharing with someone the other day that I feel like I might be a grandmother of coaching because, I've been coaching for almost 19 years. It'll be 19 years in January. And, back when I started coaching, the only time you really ever heard the word was when it was related to something to do with sports, right? And I love coaching. I love the profession. And so how did I get to it? This is my second career, my second business. I'll just tell a very brief story because I am sure you may have some women listening who could identify with this story of how do you get started and become an entrepreneur for now it's 33 years. And basically my husband says I'm unemployable, but I will tell you that it came out of a need. So it wasn't that I was craving becoming an entrepreneur. It was because I wasn't, quite honestly, making enough money at the job I was at. And I was 28 years old. My boss called me in at the holidays and he said, I've got good news and not so great news. And I said, okay, well, let's have it. And he said, we love your work. We think you're great. And we're so happy to have you. And I said, well, what's the bad news? And the bad news is that we're not giving any raises this year. And this was at Christmas time. And so like many of your listeners probably, and maybe even you too, Leslie, I was disappointed. I was frustrated. I was sad. I was angry. I went through a whole host of emotions. And then in the new year, a couple months later, a piece of paper crossed my desk that shouldn't have. So my first tip that I want to give your listeners today is always be curious. Always be curious. Because when I opened it and I saw what the companies were charging for this piece of equipment and what the insurance companies were paying for it, and the rate at which I was in the medical field, the rate at which the surgeons were using this piece of equipment, the light bulb moment occurred. And I thought, this is how I'm going to make the money that I know I deserve so I can have the things that I want to have in life. I was, again, young, 28 years old. So fast forward, really long story short, that company went on to be a 7-figure company. I owned it for 12 years, and then I ended up selling it to a competitor.
Nice.
And it was a great time. It was a lot of work, a lot of learning. I learned so much in those 12 years that really carried me into coaching. And I've been coaching, it'll be 19 years in January. So that's how I got started in entrepreneurship. That's how I came to coaching. When I sold the company, I had my children late in life. I had my son at 40, my daughter at 42. I married late. I didn't get married till I was 37. And so for me, it was a change in lifestyle. I traveled all the time for my first company, and I didn't want to do that anymore once I started having my family. So that's just a little intro and how I got here
I love
today.
it so much. Yeah, like I saw the details on your site of like the actual $500 that you needed because you had a roommate you didn't want to have. And, it's just like, yeah, just amazing what happens when you see that there's a need and stay curious, like you're saying, which I think is so important. But then also there's the conviction to go after it. So tell us a little bit about that process of like when you went after, because it's like, I don't know what you were doing before, but it seems like that's like a big jump into going into medical supply sales from, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd been in the medical field for quite a few years on the marketing side. I'm not a healthcare provider. I've always been on the business and marketing side. That's my background.
Okay.
And I think what drove me, Leslie, it's a great question. And that is, I had such a craving and such a desire to do more with my life, to have more in my life. And when I was on this fixed salary, which by the way, I was making good money for the job that I was doing. Our offices were in Beverly Hills. I live in Los Angeles. I'm not there right now, but I'm in Utah. But by all standards, I was doing well, but I knew that I was destined for more.
Mm.
And so I followed that. And I don't want to make light of it. Was it easy? No, it was very hard. It was very hard. I worked full time. And so for your listeners, I don't want to gloss over it. So thank you, Leslie, for dialing it back. I worked 7 days a week initially, and I worked 8 to faint. I did my full-time job during the day, and I came home at night, and I did all the billing for my equipment that was rented out. And how did I get my equipment rented out? 3 days a week, I would just spend my lunch hour having lunch with other healthcare professionals, trying to get my name out there. So it was a constant turning wheel to get this business going. And by the way, I kept my full-time job for the first 18 months. I didn't leave my full-time job for 18 months. Why? I couldn't afford to. Mm-hmm. So it was, after that time, but it was worth it. I wouldn't do anything any different. If I look back on it now, there's nothing I would have done differently.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. And obviously, like being an entrepreneur myself, just like understanding what it takes and the drive and the craziness, the insanity. But I agree with you. It's like people will ask, like, how do you like actually make these things happen? And how have you? And it's just like, to me, it doesn't feel like there's ever been a choice in that. It feels like I'm going towards the purpose. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like following the energy and like trusting whatever comes into my space. And if it's like, when it's a yes, it's like a yes, and I have to get it. So I guess if you know, but there's also a faith component, which we talked about on your podcast. I'm curious how much of that, because there was that, I always have felt like I was born for more, and like destined for, I'm not sure, but I would always pray and say, just use me, like however I can be in highest service. Like my life is not for me. I want it to be for you, so there was also that like inner knowing and that relationship with that, and the surrendered action to whatever I felt was aligned for me.
Yes.
Curious there.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's always been a big part of, my life is my faith. And really my ask is always to be the vessel from which you flow through, to be a vessel for whatever voyage the person in front of me is to take that I'm to help them with, and so faith has been a big part of my life in terms of knowing that, whatever I do, it's being divinely guided. And that's been important for me in the times of struggle, not really so much in the times of success and reward and the harvest, but in the times of struggle. And there's a lot of struggle when you run your own business.
Yeah.
And I do want to say for those listening, I know a lot of people go into entrepreneurship because they say they want the flexibility. And one of I think the key elements for anyone to know is when you start your own business, it is flexible. However, you don't look at Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday differently. Like I'm taking Saturday and Sunday off. You do the work when you need to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I have watched and learned over time, that people think that it means you have a lot more free time. Actually, you don't have a lot more free time. You actually are working. I worked a lot more in my own company than I ever did working for someone else. The difference is I was joyous and with purpose because it was mine. And it was something that I believe deeply in. So I always like to share that because I think sometimes it gets lost in the translation.
I love that. Yeah, you were talking about it because it's mine. And what I was thinking to myself was like it's more flow time, like where I'm constantly on but it's always up to me, and even if I want to throw in a load of laundry at the same time that I'm answering you know what I mean? Like that to me is fun and play. I remember I had when I was working as a nurse still being like, I want my life and my work to feel like one and the same, not like something I have to depart, and like be like, ugh, and I fell in love with the industry of coaching. When I found it, it was like, I could not get enough of it. So like, as soon as I left work, I was like, and I subscribed to every coach's email list I could find and every one of their challenges and free. And I was like, oh my God, I just want all of this,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is important to talk to people. And so going back to that faith component, the hard times, I just went to something recently that said like, it's only like something terrible, like 3% of women in business actually make it to seven figures, which I also read in your bio was like something you came across the Time magazine of seeing that women they did not know how to be successful in business despite their desire, which is what had you go and start helping women in that capacity. Is that right? Tell us more.
That is true. In 2005, Time magazine ran a cover, and it was three very diverse looking women. And it was talking the article, and I was struggled with it a bit when I picked it up, Leslie, because it was talking about how women would rule the world. So that was in 2005. And look how far we've come. But it was sharing about how women just really could not get over the earnings hump, the revenue hump, the profit hump. And because I had done that, not to brag on what I've done, but because I had achieved it, I thought, okay, it wasn't easy, it was hard, but it was doable. So what was different? And so that did draw me to coaching to help other women in their businesses. And there's this phase where when you're starting up as an entrepreneur, I call this really like the renegade. And when you are a renegade, which means you do absolutely everything yourself because you can't afford to hire anyone. I mean, I went through that. So when you're the renegade, but when you are starting to have proof of concept and you elevate yourself to this level where you're starting to bring on team members, there's a growth curve there.
Mm-hmm.
We all go through it. And some women have trouble going through that growth curve. And I don't want to just single out women, but I will say that it tends to be that men have they go a little faster. So it's not that women don't cross that bridge, but it takes us a little bit longer.
Delegation thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was challenging for me at first, but once I got over the hump of realizing how to delegate, now it's automatic, but I could see, and I, with even my team members, I had to coach them in how to delegate, down to something else for them, and it was a challenge for each of them. And I was just like, why are you doing that? We have this person, like, and there's like, there's this like, oh, it's just easier to do it myself. But it's like, send a quick voice memo and say, this is what you need, or videotape yourself doing this thing and send it to them. And that's it, like, so, okay. I was curious about that.
It's very true. Yeah. Well, we have, and I just wrote about this in this guide that I've created about, we have great expectations. Women have great expectations placed on them by the outside world. And it can really cause this bone tiredness, inside of us. And to your industry, to what you do, I also feel like that can also be a breakdown for us and cause us to not make choices that that treat our bodies healthy. And it's all natural because we're completely stressed out from all of the expectations that people have on us. I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but
I 100% do. And I find communication and actually knowing how to set boundaries in a nice way, and like we just override it, because we just have this like, oh, I need to do all the things, and we feel the pressure of other people. There's a book that I read that was on just like women in general, like the perfectionism expectation that we have on ourselves and on each other. And then it also can mess up our relationships because we expect our male partners to also be perfect, but they just have a completely different way of operating. So yeah, so much stuff that we get to, unpack.
Yes, I love that word, unpack.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
But such a worthwhile thing, because I mean, not only, obviously weight loss is my industry, but like, your health, but your happiness, your satisfaction with life, your, financial health, your everything is all tied up with your ability to address hard situations or get over obstacles that are, like delegation, or how to get to that next level in business or life or relationship or whatever. So that's what coaches are for. So thanks for doing what you're doing for people.
Yeah, well, likewise. And I think this idea that we talked about at the beginning of alignment, this getting aligned, is helps with all of this. It helps with our health, it helps with our business, it helps with our relationships, right? And one of the concept of align that I work with many of my private clients on, and also in our groups, is it's a three-pronged process. And this align, the first step is to really this deeper awareness. And a deeper awareness means that you're taking time out of your day to get really clear about what's going on inside of you. What's your thought process on that? What's your emotional well-being around that? Not what, and it's getting harder, right, Leslie? It's getting harder these days with social media, with just constant digital chatter coming at us, with AI now. And we start to take on the ideas of other people, when in fact what we need to do is develop an awareness practice every day to check in with ourselves, right? But what do I think about that? What's changing inside of me? Because then when you do that, you can move on to the second prong, step 2, which is asking. Ask yourself the essential questions. And that is really, what matters most? What am I going to regret if I don't make the time to take action on something this thing that I've really wanted, right? And then the last step is the action. It's awareness, ask, and action, because we can have a lot of awareness, and we can ask ourselves a lot of questions, and we can think about it for a long, long time. But if we don't take the action, then we don't really move forward. And so that's really how I believe that alignment works for women. And we have a lot of women who've really benefited from the process.
I love that. And thanks for sharing those steps with us. Yeah, for myself, like just with the weight loss industry, it's without the process that you're talking about to get clear on what it is that we want. It's like people's minds, my old mind included, would 100% believe that all I cared about was losing weight. Like it was like but it was like an addiction, right? Of just the mental addiction of I need, and just the fixation of that, just based on we've all been hypnotized since we were children, and like all the weight loss, industry messages that we get and everything. It's just constantly going through. And so what ends up happening with my clients is once we, go inside and you get clear on what actually is this about and where did this actually start, they realize like, it's not the weight. It's the relationship issues. It's the emotional issues that I never took care of in the past. I'm unhappy with my work, right? And it's just like, okay. And then once we start actually addressing what that's actually about and what this time of your life is actually about, right? I was just talking to my clients about this last night. It's like, I listen to my inner self and I'll check in regularly on like, how about my health? How about my career? How about what is this chapter about? And if nothing is saying to me, okay, I want you to become super buff and, become super skinny at the same time or whatever, then it's like, then that's not the priority. So I'm not going to fixate on that. I'm just going to make sure that I personally feel at peace with what I'm doing, that my body feels energized and able to show up and be on purpose every day. And so when other messages come in and bombard me and say I should be buff and I should be skinnier, it's like, no, 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 I've already come to an agreement with myself. So that doesn't affect me. But if we're not doing that first and knowing like what this time is about, then we're constantly like, ping ponging, balling around, with no focus and no energy. So
So
yeah.
true.
Yeah. So
Yes.
how often do you recommend people check in with themselves for alignment? I mean, I get a daily awareness practice, but then like maybe,
Yeah. So it's a daily practice. It's a daily, weekly, monthly practice. It never ends. And the reason why is because the force is so strong. The current is so strong to pull you the other way, which Leslie. So I recommend 15 minutes every day. To be very clear, I started with 15 minutes 10 years ago. Today, by the way, let me just also say I'm an empty nester. My kids are in college, so I want to put out the disclaimer. Today my practice is an hour each morning, and it is really sort of it's really my immunization, if you will, for the day. I have to have it. And I'm a completely different person if I don't have it. So I'm really committed to this time. But 15 minutes a day, that's what I did for years when my children were growing up. And it made a tremendous difference. It could be stillness, it could be journaling, it could be a walking meditation if you don't want to sit still without your mobile device. It could be prayer. I always include prayer in mine. But there's all kinds of ways to where you get comfortable with that stillness. But you made a really good point, Leslie. In addition to that 15 minutes up to 1 hour a day, it's important for women to block time in their calendar where I will say you take a sabbatical, a 3-hour sabbatical, a half-day sabbatical, a full-day sabbatical, whatever you can do alone, just to be by yourself. And this is one of the life skills that I'm telling you, oh my goodness, if I could just spend so much time on this, I'm so passionate about it. Learning how to embrace being alone in solitude is one of the greatest gifts that you will ever master. And I want people to really hear that, because it will take your life in a whole new direction, because you'll really hear what God, what your higher power, whatever it is for you, is calling you to do next. Right?
So glad you brought that up. Yes. I
Yes.
see it all the time, and I saw it in myself of like the fear of being alone. And I had to look at that. I was like, what is this about? Right. And it was the emotionality, right? It was like I was forced to have to feel things I didn't want to feel, right? Because maybe my inner self-talk wasn't as good as it could have been, right? Analyzing the day and what did I do wrong and what mistakes did I make and da 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 da. And if I was around people, that didn't happen, right? Because I was getting that validation in real time. And so it kept it numbed up. Right. But it also, by my not facing the fear of being alone, had me not find the right relationship, right? Had me not, right? It had me cling on to whatever was there versus me getting to be, very particular about like, this is who I am and this is what I want. And I'm creating a life by design. So I really support my clients. Emotional mastery is kind of my main, thing that I really help people with, is like, let's get past the fear of feeling some of these things and let's actually feel it and realize that on the other side of this is everything. It's your clarity, it's your focus, it's your connection with source, your connection with yourself. Right. So I love that you advocate for people to check in with themselves like that. Do you ever see things like that with your clients? Like,
oh,
yes.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I have 2 of my clients arriving here at our mountain home this afternoon to go on a 2-day retreat, and we'll get out and go out into the well, it's supposed to snow, but if it doesn't snow, we're supposed to go out into, the hiking trails and get out into that, finally hearing where there's no noise and there's no, where there's a lot of stillness. And, it's critical. And so a woman who's listening might say, but I have children under the age of 5 and maybe one's in preschool, maybe one's still at home. I want to say that this solitude, when my kids were little, I used to, once I drop them off at school, sometimes I'd just go for 2 hours to the local library. You know why? Because nobody can talk at the library. That's a great tip. No one is allowed to talk in the library. And I would go way back in the stacks, really deep, so that I would be by myself. So there's a lot of ways to do this on a budget that's free. I'm just coming off of a 7-day silent solo retreat. Now that's That's dramatic. But
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this for 10 years. So I'm, for me, I look forward to it. I crave it. Here's another thing, which is a little sobering. It's not a rah-rah message, but it's an important message. And that is that statistically, women live longer than men. That's a fact. That's not something I made up. That is a fact. I'm sure you know it too, Leslie. So we as women need to really practice flexing that solitude muscle, practicing that stillness muscle, practice that falling in love with yourself, because chances are there's a good chance that sometime in your life you may be on your own.
Yeah. Wow. Such a good point. Yep. And even, with eating stuff and the way we distract, it's like it's all because of that same fear of being alone. It's huge. It's so big. Wow. I love that you're saying that. And so I know joy is your name, but it's also what you stand for people through alignment. So why is now like such an important time for women to find joy in their lives?
Yeah. So it's more important than ever for us to get aligned with what matters most to you, because I truly believe, and I live this, and so it's through my own life, I'm a mirror for others, that we really truly cannot find joy until we align with what matters. We can be happy, but here's the difference, Leslie. Our happy is based on things. It's based on people, it's based on the acquisition of things, cars, homes, clothing, jewelry, maybe a relationship, right? That's what happy is going to come and go in our lives. And it's going to come and go actually all day long, because you can be happy about your business in this hour, and in the next hour, something could go wrong, and then your happy plummets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finding joy is an internal peace. It's an internal compass. It's an internal guide. And I derive mine through my higher power, through my strong connection to God. And so even when everything has gone wrong and my happy plummets, I still have an alignment with my internal joy. This is so important because it's connected to our health, it's connected to our immune systems, it's connected to the relationships we have, and it just has everything to do with how your life's going to unfold. Right? And so that's why to me, that's the mission that I'm on, and I feel very strongly about it. I'm sure you can see that by my intonations and the way I'm using my words. Because I'm living proof, and my clients are living proof that it does work. And so I just keep wanting to get that message out there. And that's why I'm so grateful for you for having me on your show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we're in alignment with that. I had so many of my clients say, like, I really found my joy in your program that I had lost for years. I just recently saw a clip, this little boy, they say he's like a star seed, whatever. So he's connected to whatever, has answers that we're not familiar with. But anyway, he talks about how all of us have like this, our soul is just this beam of light. Right. And, even I just did a TEDx talk recently. And so one of the talks was talking about how this neuroscientist, she had a time where she was outside of her body after she was having a stroke, and she was connected with this light that we all are. And she saw the bigness, and she was moved beyond belief that all of us are attached to this. So as you were saying this, I was just thinking about like doing that daily awareness practice, having that connection to that inner joy is kind of like that connection to that inner light. That is like, we are invincible there. We like anything. I mean, spontaneous healings happen when people connect to that light, like everything, when we're aware of like just the fact that, and the TEDx talk woman was talking about how like her concerns about what was going on with her family and with, the disagreement she was having with that like none of that even existed. Like it was just gone. And so, to carve out that time, like Joy is saying and is stand for, and I so agree with it, to connect with that. And if you haven't, like, just find whatever way to connect with it, through meditation, through whatever is speaking to you for your way to do it.
Yeah.
It just, it creates the alignment, creates health, happiness, well-being, inner peace, everything that I believe we're all looking for as we unconsciously are thinking that it's the homes and the acquisitions and the cars and the jewelry and the whatever that only makes life more challenging, even though they can be great if they do come in, but in a different way. So thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I understand you have a free offering for our audience. Would love to know what that is. And thank you.
Yeah. So, I think there are a couple things that I'll share with your audience. If you are an entrepreneur or you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, and one of the things that you're going to want to do is make sure that your self-leadership is as strong as possible, because you have to lead. You're going to lead yourself and you're going to lead your team. So if you'd like to find out and look at the 15 most common areas of leadership, you can go to findingjoyeveryday.com/leadership 15. That is a free leadership assessment that many of my clients have taken. And it also has 15 bonus tips on how to, in every category, shore up your leadership. So you'll take the assessment, you'll see, and then you can look at those bonus tips on how can I, increase my impact and become a better leader. The other thing that's coming out, and if you just want to shoot me an email or follow me on Instagram, send me a DM on Instagram. I'm there a lot. Everything's under Joy Chudacoff, or email me at joy@smartwomensolutions.com. I've developed a free guide that's coming out about elevating your alignment and your joy. It's coming out probably in the next 10 days. I think it's probably some of the best work I've ever done, Leslie. So if you just shoot us an email, or just DM me on Instagram, we'll get that out to you as soon as it's ready.
So lovely. Joy, thank you so much. Thank you for all your decades of service in this coaching industry and for waving that flag for people. It's just really awesome to see. So thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And I'm excited to share your episode when it comes out. And please, let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. We'll see you for the next episode.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. If you are serious about taking action on your struggle with food, body, and weight, then this is for you. Go ahead and text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483. Immediately after texting that number, you will get access to our free training that will tell you why you can't figure the food, body, and weight thing out, why you can't keep weight off even after you've been successful in the past, and how to actually overcome it, including a mini hypnosis session at the end. Don't miss out. Text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483.